Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Hello there. Welcome back. Trekkie Dave here. And today, this is video number 3. And today this video is going to be my top 10 list of the original series episodes. So I just thought that would be fun to do that. I know I follow a lot of YouTubers, Star Trek YouTubers online, and I know lists are a big thing. You see, all of them have lists, and I've never done anything like this. So just so you know, I've never actually written a top 10 list for the original Star Trek, because my top 10 list has been in my mind for 40 plus years. All of these episodes I saw when I was approximately 5 years old on syndication. And back then what they would do at 6 o'clock, so we would have dinner, and I'd help my mom with the dishes, and we'd get to the TV for 6 o'clock because Star Trek was on. And there were only actually 77 episodes in the original series. It went on for 3 years. And back then they would show it every night. So Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock. So I was able to see the entire series from beginning to end, from episode 1 to episode 77, a couple of times that first year, I would say. So all of these episodes have been in my mind and the order that they're in forever. So I've never bothered to write them down because I know what my second favorite episode is. I know what my fourth favorite episode is. It was just automatic. But when I decided to do a list, I thought, I should probably write it down and just kind of cement it, sort of like, this is it.
Killers! Killers! I won't let you get me. I'll kill you first. I won't let you get assassins! Murderers! Killers!
My favorite episode of the original series has always been City on the Edge of Forever. It was an episode that was written by Harlan Ellison. It's actually a bit of a controversial episode because Gene Roddenberry rewrote Harlan Ellison's original script, which apparently Harlan Ellison just lost his shit about, because you don't rewrite Harlan Ellison, and he was very upset by this, understandably. He's a great author, and he didn't like the idea of somebody else doing that. And I know he was upset with Roddenberry because he didn't feel that Roddenberry was a great writer. But personally, having read Harlan Ellison's original script and having seen, obviously, City on the Edge of Forever, in my opinion, Roddenberry improved Harlison's script immensely and made it a pure Star Trek episode. Harlan Ellison's script was really good, but it went off on rabbit holes and tangents that didn't fit Roddenberry's future. I believe that Roddenberry improved Harlison's script big time. Anyways, that's always been my favorite episode, number 1 for me. I think it's an incredible episode, the scope and scale of that. And one of the most amazing things about it, well, there's so many great concepts in that episode, but one of them, of course, is the Guardian of Forever. This idea of this ancient, timeless, is it a machine or a being? It's very unclear in the episode, because the Guardian actually talks to our main characters, and when Spock makes a comment about whether it's a machine or a being, it says both and neither. So it's kind of ambiguous on exactly what we're dealing with here, but it's some sort of a transporting machine, sort of, that allows us to go through time. And what happens in the episode, it's a classic Harlan Ellison time travel idea. But one of our main characters, in this case, my favorite character, Dr. McCoy, he's been compromised by a mistake. He's been injected with a drug, and he's basically lost his mind, sort of like he's in a fever pitch kind of thing. And he tries to escape the away team on the planet, and he jumps through the Guardian of Forever, and he alters the past. At the beginning, they don't know what's going on. Like, our crew doesn't understand what's going on. All they know is that time has stopped. Humanity no longer exists in the 23rd century, but they don't know why. So what Spock is able to uncover by looking at the Guardian visual record of what happened is that Dr. McCoy has gone back in the past, specifically to 1930s New York, and he has done something that has prevented the Americans from entering the Second World War. Because the Americans don't enter the Second World War, the Nazis, Germany and the Nazis and Hitler, are able to develop the A-bomb first, and they end up dropping it on New York and America before America even enters the war, or possibly America enters the war, but they enter so late that they're unable to basically bring an end to global fascism. So it basically ushers in the end of the world. So that's the city on the edge of forever. It has grand ideas like the Guardian of Forever, and this idea, like, I love the title, The City on the Edge of Forever. It's talking about New York City. That's literally the pinpoint for this happening. It's such a great concept, and I love the concept. I love the 1930s New York they recreated, and the actress that plays, what's her name? What's that actress, Julie, from Dynasty? Joan Collins. Joan Collins plays Edith Keeler, who is Kirk's love interest. So basically, they go back in the past, they uncover what's going on, and the key to it is Edith Keeler. So at first, Spock and Kirk are like, does McCoy kill her accidentally, triggering this? And what it ends up being is McCoy actually prevents her from dying. So Edith Keeler is a person she's basically a proponent of peace. She doesn't want America to be involved in a global war. So she's pushing this agenda, and she becomes powerful. Like, she gets the ear of the president, and she basically is part of this anti-war movement that prevents America from entering the war. So what ends up happening is she's supposed to die. She's supposed to get hit by a truck. And so that never happens, and time goes the way it should go. But because McCoy saves her, he pushes her out of the way of the truck, she's never killed when she should be killed. I love that twist as well. It's not that McCoy in this fever pitch kills her, it's that McCoy prevents her from dying. That idea that time is so random, that something as simple as somebody not dying can trigger this catastrophe through the timeline where Starfleet and the 23rd century, as we know it, no longer exists. There is no Enterprise. None of our characters exist because their ancestors were all killed in a nuclear holocaust hundreds of years before. It's such a great concept. So I've got a couple of items here, just show and tell, that I just wanted to show quickly, just kind of going along with what I'm talking about here. First off, this is back in the late 70s, they released photo novels of individual episodes that I just loved. These are some of my most prized things that I own. And before VHS existed, and you could actually visually read the episodes, was huge. So this was a book that Harlan Ellison wrote in the 1990s. It has his original draft that Roddenberry had changed. And it just has a lot of information on here about the conflict between him and Gene Roddenberry over the rewrite that Roddenberry did, and just how upset Ellison was about it. So this is really interesting. This is a comic adaptation that only came out about 5 years ago, and it's basically adapted the original Harlan Ellison script into a comic. And it is very different from the Gene Roddenberry version. And like I said, in my personal opinion, the Gene Roddenberry vision is the definitive vision. It's a better story and it's pure Star Trek. Whereas Ellison goes down rabbit holes of drug use and stuff that just doesn't fit, in my opinion, the original series. So anyways, there's those there. And then I just wanted to show this quickly because this to me as a child was my version of the Bible. Like if you were a Star Trek fan and a kid in the late 70s, this Alan Asherman Star Trek compendium was unbelievable. He breaks down every episode and the hidden meaning in them, who was behind it, what things meant. If you ever see this in a secondhand store or whatever and have a chance, just out of interest, buy it, because to me, it is the definitive breakdown of the original series. It's incredible. Okay, so City on the Edge of Forever was my favorite episode.
Yes, Mr. Spock. Let's have a look at the projector.
Okay, my second favorite episode, and it's always been my second favorite episode, and as far as I know, I'm the only human being where this is their second favorite episode. The episode is called The Return of the Archons. And from the first time, I remember seeing this episode for the first time and being absolutely blown away by the concepts in it, and especially by something called Red Hour. So the Enterprise, so this starship called the USS Archon disappeared 100 years before, and the Enterprise has now gone to that planet to try to uncover what happened. And they discover this kind of sort of 19th century sort of society, a simple kind of society. They dress kind of like how we dressed in the 19th century with like the ties and the overcoats and the top hats and stuff. And anyways, there's this concept in this episode called the Red Hour that is just so out there. I had never seen anything like it other than maybe some Twilight Zone type crazy ideas. But this was such a nutty idea when I was a kid that it stayed with me and it freaked the living crap out of me. So what the Red Hour is, this festival that happens every month or whatever. And basically the people just go crazy. They just go crazy. So this is like this really ordered, calm society where everybody walks around kind of like they're in a trance. They're being controlled by this machine called Lando. I'm saying his name wrong, but anyways, Lando. So anyways, this 12 o'clock hits and everybody goes nuts. This is basically The Purge. When I first saw The Purge in the 90s, when that movie series started up, immediately I'm like, okay, obviously whoever wrote this saw Return of the Archons, because The Purge is Red Hour. So for 24 hours, these people go nuts. They're murdering, they're raping, they're killing. Like it's crazy, and it shows it in the episode. And it's frightening beyond belief. So that entire idea freaked me out. So what ends up happening is this is like this controlled society, and we find out as the Enterprise away team begins to uncover the mystery, that this society is being run by a machine. 6,000 years ago, a populist religious leader died but left his consciousness in AI, and the AI has been running the planet like this for 6,000 years. So what's really interesting is we're given little hints throughout the episode that this society is much more complex than what it appears to be on the surface. It appears to be an 18th century world, but under that, underground and all around, it's really this much more technology advanced society. 6,000 years ago, this planet had technology that rivaled the Federation and Starfleet and the Enterprise, because there's things in this episode that Spock doesn't understand. There's this really great scene where these lawgivers, who are these guys in robes that carry these poles, these weapons, they point it at you and they do stuff to you. Anyways, they kill somebody in front of the away team. Kirk's obviously pissed. He grabs the weapon away from the lawgiver, pulls it away, and he hands it back to Spock. And Spock looks at the weapon, and he looks inside it, and he says to Kirk, There's no mechanism in here. This is a hollow tube. So there is some technology going on here that our away team and Spock don't even understand. They don't get how it works. And then at the end of the episode, it's revealed that that's what's going on. And basically, Kirk unplugs the machine to give the society back their autonomy, to give them back their freedom, to end Red Hour, and to end what's going on. Amazing episode. I just absolutely love that episode. So there was an artist a few years ago that began to do a poster for every episode, and I bought a bunch of framed versions of those. And anyways, I've got the Return of the Archons one. So right here. Okay, so Star Trek, Beware the Red Hour, and it shows 6 o'clock. That's when the Red Hour begins. The Return of the Archons. Okay, so anyways, that just kind of gives a visual representation of that episode.
Everybody keep back! I'll kill him! I'll kill him! Keep back!
Oh, be careful. You're going to hurt somebody with that thing.
Okay, number 3. This is an episode I have always loved from the minute I saw it. It's called Wolf in the Fold. It's a second season episode. And what I love so much about this episode, there's a couple of things, but I love the atmosphere of this episode. On this planet that the Enterprise is at for vacation or whatever, for a rec stop, it appears that Scotty has murdered somebody. Of course, we know Scotty wouldn't do that, but that's the way the episode is presented. And it's presented with foggy streets and, stoned pathways. It's just so well realized. I love it. But the big twist on this, there's this great seance scene where there's another murder that Scotty appears to have done halfway through the episode. But then the reveal is that Jack the Ripper is behind these killings. And there's a really scary moment where basically the computer is listing off similar deaths that have happened over the last 200 years, beginning with the Whitechapel murders in London with Jack the Ripper, and then the Mars murders, and then the Seti Atari murders. So basically, Kirk makes a comment that when humans went into space, this alien, this entity, this demon essentially, went with us and then continued to do what it had done in London up until this planet. It's a frightening episode. And to a 5-year-old kid, because at that time, Jack the Ripper was huge. Like anything to do with Jack the Ripper was huge. And that idea really, really struck me as something. And I've always loved this episode. So this one is right here. So Star Trek, Wolf in the Fold. Okay. And that was the art that Juan did for that one. Okay.
Good. Good. He knows, Doctor. He has reasoned it out.
Love this episode. Arena. Arena is, of course, the episode about Kirk and how he has to do hand-to-hand battle with the Gorn on the planet, and whoever loses, their ship will be destroyed, and the other one will be able to the Metrons, the other one will be able to leave. The Gorn outfit as a kid, or the Gorn costume, to me was amazing. I'd never seen anything like the Gorn before. I know that, in today's day and age, it's dated. It's neat because the enhanced effects that they did later with the Gorn, that he now blinks, that I actually think is kind of cool. It's kind of like what they did with the Ewoks in the special editions for Return of the Jedi. But I love the Gorn. But the biggest thing that I loved about this episode, I love the Starfleet base that's destroyed at the beginning. Like, we don't see it getting destroyed. We see the aftermath when the array team arrived. But just that whole scene, the scope of it is huge. And another thing that I've always loved about this episode, it's the original series at its best. We're told by the Metrons that the planet is full of natural resources to make a weapon. So the Gorn goes about positioning rocks to drop off the cliff to land on Kirk and stuff, right? Kind of simple. Kirk realizes as he's walking around that there's sulfur and there's diamonds. He can make a cannon and a weapon, like an actual mechanized weapon. He can essentially make gunpowder. It's such a great concept and idea. And you see him collecting everything and he puts it all in this makeshift cannon and he shoots the Gorn. And the best thing about this episode is he pleads with the Metrons not to kill the Gorn, that the Gorns may be misunderstood what Starfleet was doing and that we may have encroached in their space. It's pure Star Trek. And the Metrons tell Kirk that, you know, there may be hope for your humanity after all, and maybe we'll be meeting you in a couple of 100 years or a couple of 1,000 years. Great episode, and that one is here. So Arena. So it shows the Gorn with his weapon or whatever, and he's holding a skull. I mean, obviously he didn't win the battle, but I guess that would have been Kirk's skull. So yeah, oh yes, one last thing about that episode too. Years ago, I was in Penticton. They've got this amazing secondhand bookstore there. This episode was actually based off of a short story by a guy named Frederick Brown. I found the short story in the secondhand store and I've read it, and it's basically the same story. It's tweaked a little bit, but the same premise of two different aliens in a conflict, and the two pilots of the ship have to fight to the death to see who will win or who will prevail. So it's the same story, but the original series, Gene Roddenberry was really good at getting real sci-fi writers at the time to come up with script ideas, like Harlan Ellison, and in this case, what was his name? Frederick Brown. Okay.
We've settled into orbit, sir.
Number 5, and this one is huge. Number 5, The Cage, in which I consider The Cage not just to be a Star Trek episode, but the video that Roddenberry released in the late 90s, or the late 80s, where he put all of the scenes they had dropped from the original Cage for the menagerie. He put them back in, creating an hour, and I think it's about an hour and 40-minute movie. This thing is freaking incredible. It is truly a movie. It stands out from all other Star Treks because it's more than an episode. And other than Star Trek: The Motion Picture, I think it's the best representation of Gene's vision on screen. It's incredible. So I've got that one too here. So that one is right here. And this is a really, really neat one. So up above the title is, a man either lives life as it happens to him, meets it head on and licks it, or he turns his back on it and starts to wither away. The girl, the first officer, the captain, the science officer, the alien. 13 years before James T. Kirk took command of the USS Enterprise, Captain Christopher Pike and his starship crew receive a distress signal from the planet Talos 4. This is their story. Amazing, amazing poster and amazing episode. And one last thing I wanted to say about that one, because I think it's important. First off, you can see on the Blu-rays that were released with the enhanced effect, the Cage is actually at the end of season 3, and it's the full one that Roddenberry released in the late 80s. So basically it's the movie. It's incredible. Okay, and I just wanted to show this quickly because whenever I watch The Cage, and I watch it a couple of times a year, I love it that much. I think it's just such a fine piece of art. Like, it is Star Trek at its best. It's this. I mean, I'm not saying Roddenberry stole Star Trek exactly, but there is no question that Roddenberry was inspired by Forbidden Planet. Because when you watch Forbidden Planet and then you watch The Cage, the story is different, but the elements are the same. Like, you can tell a respectful sci-fi story about an optimistic future and a space crew that lands on a planet and uncovers a mystery. It's this. And it's this. If you have never seen this, see this. Forbidden Planet is incredible, and it's a definite inspiration for Gene Roddenberry's vision. Okay, the next one.
I told you I am in command here, and I will give the orders, Captain. We are going to turn and attack.
Not with my ship, you don't. Mr. Spock, relieve Commodore Decker immediately. That's a direct order.
You can't relieve me, and you know it. According to regulations...
Blast regulations. Mr. Spock, I order you to assume command on my personal authority as captain of the Enterprise.
So number 5 on my list, the Doomsday Machine. I don't have a poster for that one, but I love the Doomsday Machine. The Doomsday Machine is interesting for so many reasons. It's a full-on action episode, and I love the fact that Will Deckard's father, so Deckard from Star Trek The Motion Picture, his father is in this episode. And there's a pivotal scene in this episode where Kirk has Spock take back command of the Enterprise from Deckard, who has taken it over, because Deckard was following regulations and rightly did take it. But Kirk says to Spock, and I just love it, I am giving you personal authority as captain of the Enterprise to take command, Mr. Spock. And then Spock takes command. I've actually used that line on my children in situations. I've said to them, I'm taking personal command as captain of this household to tell you you are doing this. And it works. It's awesome. So anyways, that's the Doomsday Machine. I love that episode. The next one, The Naked Time. Amazing episode. What's great about The Naked Time is it's a character study. That's all I'll say about it. It's one of the first episodes of Star Trek, and it's a character study. And so much in that episode would later affect the entire perception of that show. Basically, they nailed the characters on episode 5, and the characters remain that way. I mean, with some character arcs and so forth, but they essentially remain that way.
You mean it's impossible to kill?
No, it might require massed phasers.
Or a single phaser with much longer contact.
Commander, pass this on to your men. We knew it was a killer. Now it's wounded. Probably in pain, somewhere back there. There's nothing more dangerous than a wounded animal.
Okay, number 8. One of my favorite episodes of all time. The Devil in the Dark. The twist in this episode that the murdering monster is actually a mother protecting its unborn children. Oh my God. As a child seeing this, and it's pure Star Trek. Pure original series Star Trek. This kind of twist is what made the original Star Trek. I know they tried to recreate that with the Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and even the new Trek. But they never hit it. Not like the original did consistently. So whether you're talking about Devil in the Dark or Metamorphosis, that kind of story idea with a twist, the original series nailed time and time again. Whether Gene Kuhn or Gene Roddenberry, whoever was creatively in control of it, they knew what they were doing.
Kirk to Enterprise.
Spock here.
Report on magnetic storm, Mr. Spock.
Standard ion type, Captain, but quite violent and unpredictable.
Rough ride?
If we stay.
Stand by to beam up landing party. Plot an extended orbit to clear disturbance. Kirk out.
Okay, number 9. I've always loved this episode, Mirror, Mirror. And I love it. It introduced us to the Mirror universe, and it's classic. Okay?
Captain, I should like to request a leave of absence on my home planet. On our present course, you can divert to Vulcan with a loss of but 2.8 light days.
Oh, what the devil is this all about?
I have made my request, Captain. All I require from you is that you answer it, yes or no.
Number 10, my last one, Amok Time. This is where we find out that Spock has to go back to his home planet every 7 years to take a mate or he's going to die. There's a great line in the episode where Spock basically compares himself to to a salmon or something, saying how a salmon has to go upstream to mate or whatever every year. And Kirk says, but you are not a salmon, Mr. Spock, you're a Vulcan. And I love Spock's response back to him. He's like, I'm not a man either, I'm a Vulcan, right? I just love that. But what I think is most interesting about that is that episode explores Vulcan society and the main character of Spock and its culture and its rituals in Amok time. I just love that. So that's my top 10, okay? And like I said, that's been my top 10 for 40 years. So this is the interesting thing that I found when I wrote the episodes out. Okay. These have been my favorite episodes in this order my entire life. It's just always been that way from the beginning. So I found something new when I wrote it out, because what I did is I wrote out the episode, I wrote out what season it was, what date it came out, and I wrote out who the director was. And I'll be honest, like even as like a hardcore Star Trek fan, I'm not really that familiar with the directors of the original series. Like I know the name Mark Daniels, but beyond that, I've never really thought about it. I know that there were dozens of different directors that Roddenberry hired, and they worked randomly on different episodes over the 3 years. Over 77 episodes, most of them have different directors. Like some directors repeated, came back on and so forth, because Roddenberry was happy with what they had done, but there was not a director for Star Trek. So one of the things that I found out when I wrote out the directors was that a gentleman named Joseph Peavney, who I wasn't even aware of, and then once I became aware of this, I was looking at the posters that I have, and yeah, Joseph Peavney is on every one of those posters. So a gentleman named Joseph Peavney directed 6 of my top 10 favorite episodes. And Mark Daniels, the other director I mentioned, he directed an additional 3 episodes, meaning 9 of the episodes in my top 10 list were directed by the same 2 directors. Like I don't think that could just be a coincidence. I thought that was really weird. And when I discovered that, I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. And I started to kind of think, like, what does that mean exactly? And I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what it means. I don't think it means everything, but I definitely think it means something, right? Like the fact that 9 of the 10 were directed by the 2 same men. So it made me begin to think about what it could mean. And I began to think about, well, is there such a thing as a director's voice or a director's vision? And based on that, I think there is. Because clearly, I've been attracted to those episodes for a reason. Maybe there's a similarity, like the way Peavney and Daniels set up scenes, the way they directed the actors, the way they brought their visions to life. But whatever it is, something's going on there. Because like I said, that can't just be, a coincidence. Their set choices, their shot counts, their camera angles, their establishing shots, their close-ups, the interactions with the actors on the set. Like there has to be something that, subconsciously, even if I wasn't aware of it, that I was attracted to with these 2 directors and with their visions. So anyways, I just thought it was interesting. In the comment section, I believe we're going to have a comment section on my channel. I'd be interested to know what you think about that. Because like I said, there were dozens of different directors, and I just found that to be really weird. So I think it shows that there clearly is a definitive director's vision. It's like people that, you love Ridley Scott, or you love Christopher Nolan, or you love Steven Spielberg, and you're attracted, or the Russo brothers in Marvel, you're attracted to, Civil War and, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Those are your 2 favorite Marvel films. Well, they were both directed by the Russo brothers. So there's a director vision going on there that you're probably attuned in, even if you're not consciously aware of it. So anyways, just in the comment section, if you can think of anything that I'm not thinking of, I would be really interested to know. Okay, and the last little thing I wanted to do here, real quick here. When one of my friends found out that I was doing this channel, he asked me to quickly give him some sites that he can watch for positive and creative Star Trek content. So there's a handful of sites that I highly recommend for people out there that are trying to navigate YouTube and watch positive Star Trek content, and unfortunately sometimes get trapped and go down fandom menace rabbit holes. So to avoid the crap like Nerdrotic and Critical Drink and all those toxic so-called fans out there in the fandom menace cult, this is my list of sites that I would highly recommend that I watch literally every week. Every one of these sites I watched yesterday with their review of the new Lower Decks episode. First and foremost to me is Jessie Gender. If you've never heard of Jessie Gender, find Jessie Gender. She is amazing and her content is amazing. She is one of the most positive voices out there, but she's also critical when it deserves to be criticized. But she is incredible. So Jessie Gender. Another one that I never miss every week is Rain Man Digital. The two guys who do Rain Man Digital, they do an in-depth analysis of Star Trek, and these guys are thinkers. They think it out. Their content is amazing. The other one is Curterat's Production. Dan at Curterat's Production, incredible. He's from where I am. Like, I live in Alberta, Canada, and I know Dan lives in Alberta, Canada. His videos are incredible, positively Trek. Again, critical when he needs to be, but fair. The other ones I would just say quickly: Starfleet Boy, Bow Trek, Trek on the Tube. All three of them incredible. And connected to them is Tex Trek. Tex Trek is awesome. The other one, Captain Jack on Trek Central. Incredible content. And the last one I would say is there's two guys who do a podcast called Star Trek Universe Podcast. I love it. I watch it every week. These are two friends who have known each other for 40 years. And they used to talk Trek as teenagers and they love it. And they've just continued to talk Trek, but on a podcast. So those are the ones that I would recommend. So to my friend out there, check those ones out. Avoid anything fandom menace. It's just garbage. Okay, and that's it. So thank you so much. God bless you all, and I'll be coming out with a, what's that, my third video? This is my third video out. I'll be coming out with a fourth one probably at the end of next week, sort of thing. So please join me for that. If you like what you've seen today and you've looked at my other content in the last couple of videos, you like it, if you think I'm bringing something unique or original to the table, please click the thumbs up and subscribe. Because I'm going to do this as long as I can physically do this. I just found out today that I begin my radiation a week from now. So I don't know how much longer I can, but for now I can do it. So if you're liking what you're seeing and you can kind of encourage me with that kind of stuff, it will get me, even when I'm, not feeling well and stuff, to try to get the scripts done and get something out to you. It'd mean a lot to me. So that's it again. God bless. And until next time, thank you.